Fundi, test the quick.
We're starting now. Okay, you can switch on and play. Is it playing?
Okay. Okay, I share my screen. Ah, there we go.
Okay.
God has smiled on me. God has smiled on me. He has smiled on me. He's been so good to me. Sing it, sing it, sing it. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Oh, my God. He has smiled on me. He's been so good. He's been so good. God's been so good. God has been so good. God's been so good. Don't you agree with me? God has been so good. He's been God has been so good. He's been so good. He will still be good. Oh, God has been so good. God has been so good. God has been so good. He has been so good. He's been so good to me. Thank you very much. Thank you. Don't you believe it? God's so good to me, and He's so good to you too. God's so good, wherever you are, wherever you're going, God's so good to us. He's good to me. Whoa. God's good. God's so good.
You can stop it now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen who have joined us on this Dr. Fundi channel. We started it today, we started it with a video that encapsulates the kind of discussion that we are going to have this evening. My name is Fundi. I'm the host on the show. Today it is World Lupus Day. It's a day in the health calendar across the world, a day where we increase awareness about this health thief that is called lupus. This is a disease, a condition whereby your own soldiers, your own defense system, it decides to go rogue. Instead of fighting germs and other intruders into your body, it decides that this immune system must just attack its own bodily cells. Anywhere in the body, it could be in the lungs, it could be in the kidneys, it could be in the liver, it could be in the joints, it could be on the skin, it could be anywhere in the body. And we normally say no two patients with lupus have got exactly the same kind of symptoms, because we don't know which organ of the body will be attacked with patient A and patient B. But anyway, there's still a lot of ignorance about this disease out there. Sometimes even us as medical doctors, we are, once we did it, we studied it at medical school. But when you're faced with patients who have got symptoms that are not unique to this disease, it takes time for us to actually join the dots and say, this is a case of lupus. It needs a high index of suspicion for one to be able to make this diagnosis. So today being World Lupus Day, we are here to increase awareness about this, chronic, sometimes disabling, clinical condition. But who better to tell the story and, inform people than somebody who has lived with this disease, who has survived serious complications relating with this clinical condition. I can say so many things, as the medical doctor, but sometimes you need to actually talk to those who have the personal experience to actually understand from the point of view of somebody who has gone through this condition. So today, my special guest, is Mrs. Nande Matanzima. I'm saying Mrs. Nande because hubby, hubby, Landelveli, he said he paid cows, he paid some lobola to, this family, so I must address her properly as a wife. She's not available, gentlemen. She is somebody's wife. Lobola has been paid, and she has got a name that she was given in that family to actually show that she now belongs to the Matanzima family. Nande, what's your Makoti name?
Upongolesizwe.
Pongolesizwe, the pride of the nation. Right, beautiful, beautiful. So I am here with Mrs. Nande Matanzima, who is what we call a lupus warrior. That is somebody who is living with this clinical condition. And, they are referred to as lupus warriors because it requires courage to live positively with the condition lupus. She is also here with her sister, Tuma Mfeketo, right? Now, Kuma Pegeto, you will then understand why she is here today. She did something that is, I would say, still very rare in the Black African population of South Africa. All right. Her sister, was diagnosed with lupus in 2009. In the 11-year period since the initial diagnosis until March last year, or say April last year, her kidney function deteriorated to almost 10% of what it should be, meaning her kidneys were failing badly. And the only thing that could reverse that health situation was for her to get a kidney transplant. Now, that's normally a very, very difficult situation in South Africa because for some reason, there is still reluctance amongst the people in the Black population, especially, to donate their organs to, especially the living donations. But Kuma was selfless. She decided she's going to give a gift of life to her sister Nande. So Kuma, please unmute yourself, and I want to welcome you.
Oh, I'm still unmuting. What about?
Right, Kuma. I know you said I must not use the word hero or shiro or anything like that to describe you, but I don't know how to describe you. But I just want to say, even before we start with the interview, what you did for your sister to actually donate one of your kidneys so that you can give her life is something that needs to be applauded. It's something that so many of us should learn from. All right. So we are going to talk to you about that decision and everything later on in our discussion.
That's fine.
But of course, I needed to acknowledge you for the role that you played. But let's get back to Singaye. Ubongo lesizwe. Right, Nande, good evening and welcome to the Dr. Fundi channel.
Good evening, Pele. Thank you.
Yes, ndafuna ungathi uyanyusa man ile jungle ngifumene iphezulu ekuseni ndifuna uyiva.
Is it better now? Does it sound better?
Okay. That's how we want it. That's how we want it, man. We want people to hear you loud and clear, Yeah, but anyway, so today it's Lupus Awareness Day or World Lupus Day. What does this day mean to you as a lupus warrior?
It means raising awareness and making sure that more people know about lupus. And for the past few years, every Lupus Awareness Month, we've been raising awareness for lupus. And I must say, there's a lot of people who have subsequently shared that they didn't know what lupus was, but because of this awareness that we have been raising, they now know and understand a bit better.
Yeah. So, but I also understand that you've got an NPO, or some organization that is actually focused on advocacy and awareness around lupus. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we have. I am part of it's called the Lupus Drive. It was actually a founder is Uponto. She is not a lupus warrior. She's actually a lupus supporter. So yes. Because one of her best friends, it turned out that he had lupus. So, and she could see that the friend needed support all the time. And then the friend didn't have time to be creating an NPO. So she took it upon herself to help us raise the awareness, because with lupus, one day you wake up with all the energy in the world, and then come midday you feel like you've been run by a bus and you just can't do anything. So because she's a supporter, so she just runs with a lot of things. So she's the actual founder, and then with time, then she started meeting other lupus warriors to join the drive.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So what does this day mean to you?
I was actually sharing this morning that it actually feels like my birthday, because I get so many messages. It's sure that it's my birthday today. I get so many messages because people are actually excited, and they actually sending a message that we are with you on this day. You are not alone. We are supporting you. We want the world to know what lupus is, and we want the world to find cure for lupus.
Beautiful, beautiful. So this morning or sometime today, you wrote a post on Facebook. I want to read certain parts of that post because it really touched me, if you do not mind. Okay?
Okay, no, it's fine, Ben.
Right. So you said, on this day in 2020, I was in hospital recovering from a kidney transplant. I could not walk properly. Fast forward 6 months later, on World Lupus Day, which is today, I can exercise fully. In a period of 6 months, you have been able to move from where you could not, walk unassisted, to a point where you are not only able to walk, but actually you can exercise fully. That's a dramatic improvement in a 6 months period. You also shared your motto. You said, I may have lupus, but lupus does not have me. Now, that's a very powerful statement. Yes, lupus is in your body, but lupus does not have you. You said you continue to rise like a phoenix again and again, reinventing yourself in the process and showing this scary lupus some flames. It may touch you in your physical body or systems, but it has nothing on your soul and spirit. Now, that's a higher level of thinking and understanding, that you saying there is the physical body, which the lupus is messing up from time to time, but there is your soul, your spirit. There is no way that this lupus can actually get through your soul. You are a woman of faith. You say you are strengthened by the belief and knowledge that you are a child of God, and it can't take from you unless it's with your permission. It can't take that which you are refusing to give. You then, in closing, gave gratitude to your sister, who is your kidney donor, and you actually said, hey, undizamile girl, galento, yes. Now, you talked like that as if this is like, she gave you some earrings or something. She gave you one of only 2 kidneys that she has. All right? But with the man undizamile mangalento, ngakunikeza 50 rand, But I now understand, when you guys write and talk about the humor in the dark situation that you were facing, actually sustained you guys all the way to theater, and all the way from theater to where we are today. So it's very good that you give thanks publicly to your sister for her deciding that she will part with her kidney so that she can give you life. Not many people can do that, right? So let's get back to the story then about lupus.
Yes, Bella.
How did you get to know that you have this challenge of lupus. You were diagnosed in 2009,
Yes.
but what made you to go and consult and get to a point where they did test and confirm that you actually have got lupus?
I actually started in 2008, around November. I remember it was the time when my grandfather had passed on. We were ekala and my joints were sore. And then we went back to Joburg, and then these painful joints, it came, I think, a few times, and then it would come and go. I went to see a GP, and then she would prescribe, painkillers. And then after that, I started having my lymph glands that were swelling up.
Yeah.
And now, even the joints were not just painful, they would swell up. So this one Sunday, it was Sunday evening, my husband, who was then my boyfriend, he suggested that we go to the hospital, because now the swelling up was just getting out of hand. So we got to the hospital, they did all the tests, and then they found out that
Which hospital is this one?
Always Life in Joburg.
Oh, okay. So not all things.
I got Always Life. And then, so they ran a few tests, and then they actually discovered that my creatinine levels were high, and high blood pressure was skyrocketing, and there were actually even the lymph glands, and I would have migraines as well. So I was admitted immediately that Sunday. And then I think the following day, I met my current nephrologist, Dr. Trevor Gontholz. So he came into the ward, and then he was like, okay, then this is all. He came in and then told me that my kidneys were not working well. Therefore, it would mean that he would have to take over as a nephrologist. However, he wasn't sure what was happening, and then he told me that they needed to do more tests. So they ran a few more tests, and then they did a biopsy.
Yes.
He probably came back like 2 days later, and then it's like, okay, you have what we call lupus. And I didn't know what it was at that particular moment. But I think what also helped at that moment was his demeanor.
Yes.
As well, because he was very calm. And it's like, yes, it doesn't have, there's no cure for it, but we can live with it and we can manage it.
Yes.
So that's how I actually got to find out about lupus, that I have lupus.
Yes, and just for just to explain to the viewers some of the things that you are mentioning. So already you were, what triggered this to you is the symptom of painful joints, and then swollen joints and swollen glands, and those were clearly the flare-ups of the disease. Where your soldiers were attacking the joints, they were attacking the lymph nodes, and obviously they were quietly causing harm also inside your organs. So your kidneys, when you say your creatinine levels were high, what that meant was that your kidneys had already been affected by that point, and so the ability to filter some of the salts of the body was already compromised to an extent that, in your blood system, some of the salts that are supposed to be excreted by the kidneys were actually accumulating, and that accumulation makes you to experience other symptoms as well, like lethargy, being tired, getting very exhausted, and many other things. But because they could not at a point say what is causing your kidney problems, then they did a biopsy. A biopsy is taking a piece of your kidneys to be looked under a microscope so that they can see what exactly is happening there. And they were able to see from the biopsy, from that piece of your kidney, that you've got lupus. So how did you react when you then got this diagnosis?
I'm actually quite a calm person by nature, Bele. So when I got this news, I didn't know what it was at first. However, my friends and my family, they brought me information. They printed things that I could read up on so that I could understand it better. And because I was told that there is no cure for it, I could manage it. So to me, I looked at it, okay, the doctor didn't say you are dying right now. You still you can live with this. They didn't say, okay, sorry, ma'am, you have 1 week to live and that's it. But I looked at it as you are blessed enough to get this condition that you can live with. You are not dying. So that's how I looked at it. And then also I remember I was talking to a friend of mine, Ulinda, telling her that, oh, this is what's happening. And she's like, actually, girl, do you remember the condition that took my mom away because her mom passed away? It was lupus. And then only then it rang the bell. Oh, actually, I know what lupus is. And then she sent me her mom's book on lupus. And then I started reading up on it as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. So because knowledge is power, you know, you now needed to get to a situation where you are getting to an agreement with this disease or this condition to say we are going to have to coexist.
Yep.
And for me to coexist with you and manage you, I need to know more. Because there's a saying that know thy enemy. So this to you was your enemy, and you needed to know as much as you can about this enemy so that you can see how to actually, outmaneuver it as it is trying to outmaneuver you. And so that was a good step for you to actually, get that information about, lupus. Now, you've just mentioned that your friend's mom had lupus as well. One of the things about lupus is that it tends to be much more common amongst females than it is amongst males, and also it tends to be most often diagnosed between the ages of 15 and 45. All right, certainly you were within that age. Obviously, not going to talk your age. A woman's age is something that's very private, but also there is information that shows that it's much more common in people of African descent. All right, so whether you are an African American or Africans, in the diaspora, and even Asian, American. So it has that bias, but it doesn't mean if you are a male, you are not going to get it. It doesn't mean if you are not from the African descent, you're not going to get it. But it tends to be slightly much more common, in those situations, and just something that's important also is that commonly it presents with fatigue, that is getting tired easily, fever, that is a raised body temperature, not the Eastern Cape fever. In the Eastern Cape, if you've got common cold or flu, hey, they didn't fever. But fever is just a raise in body temperature, irrespective of the cause. But here we're talking of a raise in body temperature, joint pain, stiffness, and swelling, and that's what you had. Butterfly rash on the face, that covers the cheeks and the bridge of the nose. That's why we sometimes call them butterflies. It is actually one of those symbols of lupus, the butterfly. Skin rashes that may appear or worsen with sun exposure. So you tend to have sensitivity to the sun. And sometimes the fingers and the toes may turn white or blue because of reduction of blood to to the fingers. Some people may have their internal organs affected, so they have got shortness of breath. That is when the lungs are affected, chest pains, and some other minor symptoms. So I thought I needed to just give that picture so that people, as they're following your story, they are also just getting some information as well about the condition. All right. Now, the question then, has anybody ever had, this kind of condition in your family, whether from the mother's side or from the father's side?
Not that we know of, Bella. However, knowing the symptoms and or understanding lupus better now, I suspect my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, she could have had, because she would have like the sore joints, hair loss, and other things. But obviously, at that time, we didn't know. So it's just my suspicion that maybe it could be that she had it. However, besides that suspicion, there isn't anyone else that I know of.
Yes. And I think what is also important then is that the cause of lupus is unknown. We don't know what causes those immune cells and of the body to start attacking normal body cells. But certain things can trigger this. Sunlight, I've already mentioned, sun sensitivity. Some infections can actually also, trigger this, and some medications as well, special medications for blood pressure, for epilepsy, and some antibiotics. But they don't cause, but they are a trigger on somebody who already has that potential. Okay, so you stayed at Life Fourways Hospital. You were managed, and at a certain point, they must have then decided we're discharging you.
Yes. Okay, so after I got discharged, so now one of the things that I read up was, okay, living a healthy lifestyle would assist me in living with lupus. But fortunately for myself, was that I was already minding the things that I was eating. I was not. I'm not a drinker. I'm a non-smoker. So some of the things. So adjusting my lifestyle was not that difficult for me. However, the things that I didn't know were going to happen, the body changes that came with the medication.
Yes.
Because now I was pumped up with
Steroids.
prednisone, like a whole lot of medication. And then within just a week, I could see moon face. Like my legs were big, and there was just a whole lot of changes. So now there's this new condition in my life, and this body changes. And however, I told myself, okay, you can do this. So I just lived with it, and the support that I was getting as well also assisted me throughout.
Yes. I also guess then that the rest of the family members, in trying to support you, also had to study or learn a lot about the condition, so that they know how better to support you. Tuma, I'm suspecting that you were one of the people who got into Dr. Google.
Sorry, before she responds, Ben, forget about reading up on lupus. They flew up to Joburg to actually see for themselves what was happening and what this lupus was about.
But tell me, see,
You can go, Ben.
Tuma, please unmute. What's happening? Tuma looks like she has frozen now. Okay, she will join us. I don't know what's happening with her. But anyway, so at the time you were diagnosed.
Oh,
Tuma?
I'm back.
Right. Yeah. Okay, you can talk to us. Did you visit Dr. Google to get to know about this thief called lupus?
I think months later when I did, but my first port of call was my husband. Fortunately, he's a medic, so he's the one who assisted with a lot of information in appeasing our fears. And by the time we went to Joburg, I at least had a few facts that I knew around lupus. We still didn't know what it means to support a lupus warrior, but
Oh no. You see now, where is she talking from now? Yes, Tuma, your line is a bit messed up now. Okay, Tuma?
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. So you're saying you got a crash course in lupus in the bedroom. Okay, Masmuyele Nande. Let's get back to Nande then. All right. So Nande, at the time then that you were diagnosed, were there, besides the kidneys that were already negatively affected, were there any other major complications that they had identified?
No, fortunately, Belle, there weren't any other major complications.
Yeah.
It was mostly just the kidney.
Right. And the functionality was, remember, your sister talked about 10% functionality in April last year. At the time you were diagnosed, where was the level of functionality of your kidneys?
I can't remember the actual percentage, but I think it was stage 3
Yes.
of the renal failure. So,
yes.
but well, you would know better what stage 3 percentage wise is.
Yes. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so, but I remember it was stage 3 of the renal failure. 3A, it was 3A, and then quickly went to 3B.
Yes, and I mean that was advanced stage, of chronic renal failure. And how long did it take from there to a point where now they said you must be on hemodialysis?
From 2009 until last year, 2020. So that's about 11 years. And in between, I probably fled up about 3 times.
Yeah.
Throughout. So it didn't really disrupt my life that much. However, when it did, it really did.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So just talk to us then. So tell me, so during that period, were you on hemodialysis? Or your kidneys were still functioning well? I mean, I'm not saying well, but at least you were not yet at the point where you needed to be on dialysis.
No, they were just fine. They were functioning well because when I got diagnosed, the medication I was taking, I was probably taking about 20-something pills.
Yeah.
And then there was a time when I was just on 2. So when you're on 2 every day, I know taking pills every day is not a nice thing, but when you're a lupus warrior, taking 2 pills, that's a holiday for you.
Yeah.
So there was a time when I was when I was on 2, and then up until last year, just around March, that's when things went south again.
Yeah. You see, now I've been asking Nande about complications, and we know it can affect almost any organ, but the major ones are the kidneys, and she had her kidneys affected, but it can affect the brain and the central nervous system. Where you would have headaches, dizziness, behavioral changes, vision problems, sometimes even a stroke. It may affect blood and blood vessels, which can lead, to issues where your red blood cells may be affected, or you may have clotting problems. It may also affect the lungs, where you may have a problem of inflammation, of the lungs or the covering of the lungs, and may make breathing very, very difficult. Sometimes you may even have, pneumonia. One of the lupus warriors, Usisi Spongile, actually, her big challenge is, she talks about it, that it affects her lungs more than any other part of the body. And it can also affect the heart, causing inflammation of your heart muscle, your arteries, and the heart membrane. So at least out of these, the only major organ that was affected, were the kidneys, So at what point then, did your physician, that is your nephrologist, say to you, you know what, Nande, I think the kidneys now are getting to a point where we have to consider dialysis. Obviously, there are options when it comes to dialysis. There's what we call hemodialysis, where you are connected to machines, and then the machines, do what the kidneys are supposed to do, that is to clean your blood, remove the things that are not supposed in your blood, but you need to do that maybe 3 times a week. You go and get connected there. The day after, you're still very tired and whatever, but you didn't go the hemodialysis route. You went the peritoneal dialysis, right?
Yes, 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 I did.
Right, which is another way of filtering your blood, but using, the peritoneum, which is the covering, the layers that cover your abdominal, organs. Mhlawumbe lesixhosa sathi umhlehlo, sisebenzisa umhlehlo, those people who have been there when we slaughter sheep, they will know umhlehlo, or those who love liver, they will eat liver with a bit of omentum. Umhlehlo is omentum, so it's basically that. It's also quite efficient, quite tricky at times, but it's also a very efficient way of actually helping you to deal with the impurities that are accumulating in your blood. I also understand that you initially had challenges with the peritoneal dialysis, blockages and things like that. Can you talk to me about that?
Okay, so this started happening around July last year, barely. I currently live in East London, so I have my secondary nephrologist this side. I'm blessed like that, 2 nephrologists at the same time. So, Dr. Govender, that's when he told me that, okay, you need to start considering dialysis. We don't have much time. So when I was chatting to him, okay, I'll come back after 2 weeks. But then around that time, that's when COVID was at its peak here in East London, and there were no beds in the hospital. So my husband suggested that let's rather go to Cape Town should something happen, because remember, my immune system is very, very much suppressed.
Yes.
So, and things were sort of getting better in Cape Town. So he suggested that we go to Cape Town. So we went to Cape Town. I spoke with Dr. Gentholz. He's like, come through, I'll be here. So I went to Cape Town, and when I got there, he was so shocked. I was looking terrible. I was skinny. I was super, super skinny. So
somebody who was already skinny anyway. I mean, it's not like you've ever had a weight challenge, So say you were bones.
Yes, I was actually. So one of the first things he said, okay, we need to put some mafuta on those bones of yours.
Yeah.
We have to start you on dialysis immediately. That's what he said. So from there, I had to go do a COVID test and start preparing for the dialysis. However, he set me through as, okay, there's 2 options. There's your hemodialysis, which you do at the renal unit, and then there's the PD, the one you're talking about, the peritoneal dialysis. And he recommended that I go the PD route because he wanted to prevent me contracting COVID, because there's a lot of people obviously at the renal unit. Yeah. So obviously, the final decision was with me, and then he gave me the pros and the cons of both, and I figured that the one that would give me more independence would be the PD. Yes. Because I would be able to work and do things, unlike having to go to the renal unit all the time.
Yes.
And then so I had to go in. Then they did everything to prepare for the PD, and then it started. The first, I think, which was the first few weeks, I would have to do it every 3 hours. So that meant not going anywhere. And I was doing the dialysis manually, because I was told that I can only do the automated one. I can put it that way, only after a month. So my body needed to get used to it. And I had a lovely sister there who was assisting me, Sister Connie, and Sister Connie. So she assisted me, and I would go onto the renal unit.
Okay. Tuma, one of your devices,
I've just done that. Sorry, I'm moving to my phone. My Wi-Fi is unstable. Terribly sorry.
No problems. Actually, the phone that you are using now has got much better clarity. siyakwazi ukubona kakuhle ngoku. Yabo? Right. Thank you very much. Yeah, can continue, Nande?
Yes, so one of the things that would happen with the PD, the blockages, like you had mentioned, and my sister, my lovely sister here, she would have to come and assist me. We would flush out, I think that's what it was called, because initially I would go into the unit, and then Dr. Gunholt would assist me with Sister Connie. But then he recommended that because my brother-in-law is a medic, and so he was able to assist me as well. So at night, if I had blockages, he would come and assist me with the blockages. And then the Mrs. Medic here, she also learned how to do it, the flashing. So she would flash me. And then also, because there was an incision on my tummy, there was a time where the dialysis water, if I may put it that way, it was sifting through the scar, or rather through the incision. So there was just a lot of things that we were not expecting, but we took it with strides and we survived.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So, but all of that was to buy time, whilst you guys were considering the recommendation of, a definitive solution, which is a kidney transplant. So let's talk about that now. The issue of the kidney transplant. Again, Utuma, in one of her Facebook posts, she talks about Uguti. There was a process of trying to identify people who are compatible with you. Maybe makesumnika i-break nyana ne uZetuma makesithethe nawe ke ngoku ngale phase yokuba kuthiwa she needs to get kidney transplant, and obviously there's two ways of getting the kidneys. Is to get from a living donor a kidney, somebody where there's a match, so there are tests that need to be conducted on the donor or potential donor. But there's also the other side of getting a kidney from somebody who has just passed. Somebody who has just passed away, somebody who's brain dead. But the list for that type of donation, it runs into thousands. Many people, 10 years, still they don't have an opportunity. So let's talk about that, Tuma. This is where you then came to feature, beyond you being a nurse and the doctor, supporting her with the dialysis, getting cross-pollination from the bedroom and everything else. Yeah. So let's talk about you now, how you came to feature, when you started considering that you may need to be one of those donors. Yeah.
Okay. So can I start here? What she's forgetting to tell you is that in those blockages, there were instances, 2 or 3, where we'd have to drive from Big Bay, if you know Cape Town, to Rondebosch, because there's a blockage, only to find out that she forgot to break the seal. Transfer money from that because the whole process was still fairly new. So, we think it's a blockage, yet there's no blockage, but she just forgot to break the seal that allows the fluid into her body. But that was one of
things.
It's a good 30-kilometer drive to, But anyway, coming to your question, what she also is not telling you is that she had volunteered us to the nephrologist even before we knew it. She had told the nephrologist that she's got 4 willing donors, and this is not us knowing at all, but she's volunteering us. So by the time Utreva was talking to us, he was under the impression that you guys are willing donors, so come, let's have this discussion. Let's continue with the discussion, which was still fine, because whether or not she had volunteered us, she knows that we would have considered that in any case. Yeah. That's the bond that we share. So the challenge that I talk about in one of my Facebook as well is that we had 4, there's 5 of us at home. I'm the eldest. Yes, I am the eldest. And then there's the 4 siblings. So we had 4 willing donors that we had to decide who of the 4 will go. So we had to consider a whole lot of things, like the health
So
bill.
like the one who's got a doctor in the house, maybe the one who can afford, not about afford in terms of money, but the one who at least has got somebody who can look after her 24/7.
But the things that get considered there, it came down to things like how far are you from good medical facilities? For Ukwako and myself, it was whether or not there's a likelihood of falling pregnant again, because if you remain with one kidney, obviously if you fall pregnant, there's going to be a bit of strain on the remaining kidney, and also the general health bill of the potential donor. But obviously we all had to go for the test to see if we are all in the same blood group to start with. There's a big joke there in that all of my life I've always thought that I'm an O. It turned out that I'm A+. 2 kids later, I didn't know my blood group. But anyway, that was that. So the amazing part was that we all came as the same blood group, if I remember correctly, which made the pool even stronger. So we had to decide now who of the 4 is going. So one morning, my husband called it and he said, because we're still debating who is it going to be. My husband called it and he said, I think you should go. I think you're the ideal candidate, based on when I look at all the 4 of you. And that was it. That's how we made the call. And I started going for the further tests after that. Now, being the submissive wife that I am, I did submit to him. Yes.
But
so that's how it
happened. Any anxieties once now hubby suggested this thing and therefore it was becoming real. Any anxieties that you went through, because it can't, as much as you were willing to donate, this is your sister, you want to give her life, but you also got emotions, you got anxieties. How did you deal with that reality now that was coming close?
Honestly, at the time, I think all 4 of us were just concerned about her health. What she's not telling me is that when she walked into my house from East London, at the time when Nosbari had decided that she looked so bad. I always say to her, I've never seen death, but that day I saw death walking through my door, through Yena, the way that she was looking. So I think we were just concerned about that even when it became apparent that I would be the donor, I was not thinking much about what I need to go through until I had a discussion with my 9-year-old when I was going out for my first test. Kids are emotional beings. So she wanted to know where I'm going. So when I explained, she just broke down and cried because she's scared. And the question was, what if something goes wrong, either during the process or with your remaining kidney? And only then did I start thinking about it. But at the same time, I didn't focus on that because we were more concerned about getting to the solution. Any anxieties probably started maybe a day. I started to observe my emotions a day before the transplant. But before that, it was just we were on a mission.
Yes. All right. And obviously, like I said, that medical person who's a counselor, who is able to also, give you information about, what can happen and all of that, and how that can be managed, so that it makes you know that you can live a good life,
Actually,
with just one kidney. Because most people worry that if I give a kidney away, then it's gonna compromise my health. But actually, many people live with one kidney,
normal lives,
normal lives, no limitations in bodily, in function. I think it's important because there could be somebody who's watching, who is thinking about what you've just done, and maybe a family member has been affected, but they think that if they donate a kidney, then it would shorten their lives. It's not necessarily.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier, but about knowledge, because one of the things that he did for me was, as soon as it became apparent, he sat me down, we went through a YouTube video of how the transplant will actually happen. So I could see exactly how they're going to cut, where they're going to cut, how they're going to take it out. And so by the time it happened, I had a clear view as to what I'm going to go through.
Yes. And at least you already had 2 kids as well, you know.
Yes,
Remember,
I was done.
you know, about kwakho and uyazi usekhonzela umntana uba.
Yes, she does.
Okay.
Let's not go there.
Okay. Ndibuza nje. Yabo. So anyway, so what kind of tests did you go through besides the blood type? You know, what other, just the preparation, you know, of you so that they could see that this is an ideal candidate, and the risk is actually much less than, you know,
Yes.
so they won't be causing much risk to your health.
Sure, it was
I
a
think
lot. Good. Are you asking me or Nande? Let me hand over to her.
When as a donor, this is our Nande. This is a as a donor.
Oh, okay, all right. There was a whole lot. Good. I remember the general ones like your cholesterol, your this, and then there was this cross-matching one. I can't remember what they call it exactly, but it has it's match. It's called a cross-match, whatever. But that went well. We had to go through the DNA. That was an interesting story on its own.
Yeah.
I had to go through the X-rays, and was it an angiogram? But there was a whole lot of them.
It must be an
I lost
angiogram
count.
because the operator, they need to understand and know exactly the arteries, you know,
Yes.
emzimbeni wakho bazokwazi baqale
Yes.
sika apha bathini because sometimes there is the anatomy esiyiqhelileyo, but sometimes during you know xa usenziwa phaa ngaphakathi, you know, when you are still within your mom, sometimes the arteries may come out in a slightly different way to the usual. So they need to know when we operate, we will find
Yes.
arteries like this. You know, they branch here and branch there, so that
Yes.
there is
Yes.
no waste or, you know, surprises when they are actually operating.
Yes, the last one that they did was irenogram to check my kidney functionality on each of the kidneys so that they can decide which one to go with. I just remember them saying the right one is the right one. So remember, there's that golden rule that says that the donor has to be left with the best functioning kidney. So my right one was the best functioning one, so she got my left one.
Yeah, so totally reject lakho.
Yes, the one that's not so good.
Lovely. Let's get back to Nande. So Nande, so you now we're getting ready to have this kidney transplant. Okay, everything has just moved very fast. It was in March, in April, and all of a sudden now it's a race to actually get you to get that transplant, you know, from your sister. So what was going through your mind at that point? You know, any anxieties that you were going through? What kind of tests were they, you know, taking you through to try and make sure that by the time they do the transplant, you know, everything, you know, is there's no surprises basically?
I was quite relaxed actually, Belle. I was in that survival mode. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
And one of the first assessments that we did, because this was now in August.
Yeah.
It was we went to see a psychologist at the the renal transplant unit. Now they needed to see that they wanted to check if she really, if she's not paying me, or rather if I'm not paying her for the kidney, and if she's really willing, I'm not forcing her. So that was one of the first assessments that we did, and then all the other ones now we're doing them together. So it goes back to what she was saying, where she said we had to look at the geographical location as well, because some tests we needed to do them together at the same time.
Yeah.
So because I was fortunate enough that I was working from home, therefore I was based in Cape Town. So that also assisted in making things go faster in the process. So all these other ones, tissue typing, cross matching, we did those ones together. And then Yena, which I think she did like extra ones from her side. I remember she went for I think a scan, and then they injected her with iodine or something like that.
Yes, that's the angiogram.
She came back throwing up, and she was just not feeling well. And I was feeling so sorry for her because I was sort of feeling guilty because she's going through this because of me. I remember I was feeding her. I was giving her like water with ginger so that she could feel better. And well, I needed to make sure that she's good and she's good and up and running for the transplant. I didn't want any funny things, so that's why I was taking care of her.
Yeah.
So it was those tests, and then the last one that sort of made me panic, especially my sister, was the COVID one, because that was the last test that we did. Because
the procedure would have had to be postponed.
Yes, that's what it meant. Because we did that one, I think it was on a Thursday or Friday before, because we're going in on the Monday. So had something gone wrong, or one of us contracted COVID, that meant moving things, and that's another process. Because I remember when we went for our first session at the renal transplant unit, they showed us a number of files of people that they had to put their transplant on hold because of COVID. So, and we didn't know when next I would be able to go in for the transplant had something gone wrong at that point.
All right. So anyway, there were tests done on your sister. There were tests done on you. At this point, Umadiba, you're happy. Obviously, he had been, on your side ever since, the initial diagnosis. And in fact, you guys, the way and in a faith you even got married on the 22nd and 23rd of March was it 2019?
2019, yes.
Yes, you said, what, lupus or no lupus, siaku, as man, yeah. So how was Happy, dealing with all of this, especially now last year as you were contemplating, or actually you were part of E-Plan's transplant?
He was very supportive, Bele. Like I had mentioned earlier on, that he's the one who actually suggested that I go to Cape Town because of better facilities.
Yes.
And even then, so whenever we would go see Trevor, I would come back and give him the feedback. So he I would say he did put up a brave face. But now, from what I'm hearing from people, is that Ebegoa, even though for me, well, in front of me, he seemed like, we're doing this, I'm here, let's do this thing. Because I remember Mama, she was telling me last week that on the day of the transplant, he locked himself up in the room and he was not talking to anyone, and he would just go out, grab something to drink and go back into the room. Because why go at that moment?
Ndimbona phambi video ndimbona phambi video bawayegowa nyhani because ubhizi uconcentrated ifoni as you were being wheeled in, but anyway, as men, I could have also reacted in the same way. As men, society teaches us to not show emotion, teaches us to be strong, teaches us to be there and support. We will deal with our emotions later, So to the person that you are supporting, you can't be seen to be, ubheke-bheke, ngathi uyoyika kwawena kuqala. So uMadiba did what was right, at least phambi kwakho bengabonisi ukoyika.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Right. Okay, so on the morning of the procedure now, you guys both went in, all right? Obviously, there must be two teams now. Tell me, were there two teams, or is it one team but two adjacent theaters to work this side, remove here and whatever? Just paint a picture of that day now.
I actually thought it would be like Grey's Anatomy,
Yeah.
whereby they are Cooper from one side and Hoyt in the other side. It was
Yeah.
nothing like that, actually.
Yeah.
So Susanna, she went in at 7 in the morning. So okay, so
Okay, Annie, there's a name that you used.
Susanna.
Usisana. Okay. But she's older than you, but you still call her Susana. Or is there another Sisi
Yes, there's another sister in the family.
omdala kunaye?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Oh,
the first grandchild. So she was the second grandchild.
Okay, all right. So Sisan, okay.
So that morning, the first person we saw was Dr. Grandholz. He came in and he was cheering us up and we're taking pictures. And then the time came when she was going in. I think it was around 7 o'clock. And I went with her to the waiting area, and I was just crying, excited, and I was just filled with emotion because the day I couldn't believe that the day was there. That by the end of that day, I would have her kidney and apagum. And so yes, she went in first. She was, and then when we got into the waiting area, Ubudi came in, the husband. So I left them to do their goodbyes. Sorry. Sorry. So she came back around 11, and then she was out when she came back, and I was just crying, all emotional.
Yeah.
And fortunately, Bud was there again, so he was checking up on her. So that really actually helped me as well, seeing him there, making sure that she's fine. And then an hour later, they came in to take me. Yeah. And so I went into the same waiting area as her. And yeah, they took me into the theater. So when I got in there, I remember the first question I asked them was like, so where's my baby? Asking where he was. And they showed me it was sitting in a like your normal cooler box, because I thought it would be something fancy. No, it was just your normal cooler box. Type of thing. And then at that time, the surgeon, Professor Stein, she was running late. So they were just talking to me. And then the next thing, I was gone. I woke up ICU much later, just after 5. And I was feeling very high at that moment. Yeah. When I woke up. And then when I woke up, Uputi was there and my husband was there. They were right next to me when I woke up. So which also actually made me feel good, because at least I saw familiar faces. Yeah. And I knew that, okay, all is well. Because I looked at their faces. I wanted to see their faces, and then they were fine. I was like, okay, they were not crying or anything, so that meant all went well. Yes. And yes, she was in her ward, because she stayed at the surgical ward, and then I was from the theater, I went into the ICU. Okay, so Sister Toma, when you woke up after the op, your thoughts? This thing is done now.
I remember I was quite dazed. I woke up to my husband standing next to my bed, talking endlessly. All I wished for at that time was just for me to close my eyes a bit, because I just wanted to sleep, but he was trying so hard to keep me awake. And then I remember seeing Nande at the foot of my bed, all emotional and excited at the same time. But a part of me, like she was saying, when I saw her, how excited she was, and when I saw my husband, I knew, but it's done. All was well. I could not feel anything at the time because I was heavily sedated. Yes. So it was that, but there was relief, because I think the anxiety that I had that morning was not knowing what to expect when you go through that whole process. But there was relief when I opened my eyes, but I just wanted to sleep.
Yeah. All right, let's fast forward then. Obviously, you guys had to stay there for some time. I assume that recovery with Utuma was much faster, for her to eventually leave the hospital How long did it take for you to leave hospital, Tuma?
I think I spent 2 nights after the transplant. On the third day, they discharged me.
Yes, lovely.
And I could work better.
And with you, Nande, how long did it take? Because it sounds like for you not to be able to walk, it means you must have lied on the bed for quite some time. Your muscles got wasted. I even see that there were some, those socks to make sure that there's no deep vein thrombosis and all of that. So how long did it take for you to actually get?
I was actually ready to go home by day 6.
Yeah.
However, they needed to sort out the medical aid thing, so I only went home on day 7. But
Okay.
what helped me, Bella, was during the whole assessment and the test, when we went to consult with the surgeon, Professor Stein, I asked her, "What's the one thing that you can suggest in preparation for this?" And then she said, "You must walk, don't run, just walk to make sure that your core is strong."
Yeah.
And that really helped me actually, because on day 6, I was walking, but I was struggling to walk, but I was walking, which was a good recovery compared to other kidney transplant recipients. So that advice from Professor Stein really helped me. So day 7, yes, I was walking. I was able to walk, and then that's the day I got discharged.
Yeah. Okay. So any physiotherapy, post-op, or as we were going home, or because almost strong, also in
Yes.
there.
While I was still in hospital, the physio would come. I think I saw them twice. Yes, I saw them twice, and so they would come in. Even the ones that help with the breathing, where you have to blow bubbles in water. So I think I did those three times max.
Yeah.
And then post that, after I got discharged, I didn't go for any physio, because when did I start swimming? Actually, it was probably a month later, and Mama, she just couldn't understand how I would be swimming a month later, and she just wanted to take me out of the swimming pool. But I consulted with my nephrologist if it was fine, and he was like, "No, if you feel strong, then go for it." So so I was also pushing myself as well.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. There's some people who've been making some comments on the Facebook page. I just want to read, a few of those. Obviously, you can guess your color. We are guapo, All right. Maybe a purple heart, an ISSA, and
Sorry, before you continue, you have to acknowledge she's the operational department. She ran with the logistics right throughout the prep and after that. So we need to acknowledge her. That's why she's the first one to comment.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, sister love, makalonke, umntu nekhono lakhe, to make sure that things go well. That's lovely, Kwako. There's Ulinda Tibi Mahlasela, who's just laughing at some of the things that you guys have been saying. There's Ntobo Vuyowa Imkweli, Uti, hey, Sisana, and then Unati Mtaga Tembo says, we love the bravery of Sisana, so a lot of people have been, viewing this thing and commenting, but we will read others along the way. So how long did it take you, to feel like I ingati ndimbulo, after the operation? Obviously, with the new kidney that was not abused by Utuma.
Another thing that I forgot to say, Belle, was that she was in pain more than me post-op. Now I was not in pain at all. She's the one who had some pain episodes post-op. And so anyway, I think it was probably after a month, Belle, when I could just walk properly without feeling pain. But obviously, if I was standing for a long time, I would feel the pain while standing. Besides that, yeah, I think it was about a month because I stayed in Cape Town for like a month and a half
Yeah.
after the transplant. By the time I left Cape Town, I was in Khatula.
And because there's somewhere where there's a picture of you guys up the Table Mountain. Was it before or after?
No, that one was on month 5. This was last month when we
Yeah.
went up hiking. It was last month.
Okay. All right. Lovely. So, but now looking at all of this, and the fact that you have now regained your health has been restored, thanks to your blood sister Utuma Usisana. Just when you look at all of that, I mean, other people, the family members refuse to be part of this. Other people don't have siblings, or those who want to donate, they are not suitable for one reason or the other. So it sounds to me that, the universe, things were aligning, you had COVID, which put everything on standstill, all right? And we're all pissed off by the fact that life had changed from what we used to know. Yet for you, that's the time that you had to go through this. Had you been in East London, you have had to make those trips up and down from East London to Cape Town. So actually, there was an upside to COVID. Thank you to COVID, because then it allowed you to be able to have this procedure done quickly without a lot of up and down, and with time you were able to work from Cape Town remotely, which maybe would not have been easy, before COVID. So actually, we always look at this COVID pandemic in a negative sense, but actually there's also positives, things were aligning for you, and this whole thing was done. We are still in the COVID pandemic, but you've undergone this major, major operation, and your health has been restored. Can you just tell people, other things that tell you or show you that your health has been restored indeed?
Just to add on, Bele, at looking at the positives of the whole COVID thing. So when they opened up for the transplants, they only opened up for the people based in Cape Town.
Yeah.
So if before the lockdown, let's say you were number 2, but you were based in East London, you were put aside because of COVID. So fortunately for me, I was, like you said, I was in Cape Town at that time. And so that helped me actually with going forward with the transplant, faster.
Let me read a few other comments from Facebook. Jasira Simon Akamolafe says, such a selfless act, love personified. I'm sure this one is directed at Usisana, all right? And then there's Nyam Eka, who says, we love you guys and the strong bond you share and love amongst you. The other one is from Tigeleti Waka Malaria, sheer sisterly love. Then there's Faith Nsuela, or Nteula, such a heartwarming sisterly love with all the 3 purple hearts. Fezlendwana, she is indeed a warrior. Keep going, Sisi. Then there is again ukwakho kakho kubuzwe Africa Qongqo, ishori kasisi wakho, andibazi ngowuphi ke noba ngusisana okanye uthetha ngawe Nandi, and then some people have, oh yeah, Ulinda says yamazi uyahleka ke, and then Sipho Mavikela says ngathi ubhala imatric. Nolita Nol Slalukana uthi ufuzile ukhe umbone umama yena uqala kwakho Qongqo. So I think okuphapha yinto esuka ekhaya, all right. So Unathi Mdaka Tembo says we love the bravery of Sisana. Zimasa Makaba Menese says crash course where Tuma Begeto learned about lupus. Yes, she learned it, in proximity to the one who actually studied it in the bedroom. Tony Kayana Makatela akasemhle unande. Siyabulela Josie says, I see uthando nokholo kuni love personified. Tobovuyo Waingwebi, hi Sisana, hey Sisana, Innocentia Ramutla, 3 purple hearts, Linda, TB Matlasela says, Ausa Chloe girl, and then Polo Pia, Solen joins my daughter. J Sinekauti Kandada, Tigeleti Waha Malaria, Siram cross match. I think it was answering the question that Utuma the Tetagal, but there's this thing, no cross match, yeah, Siram cross match, and then Mogani Ngoma says, Silapa as Abakwam Goma, Simamkele Nach, yeah, Unatim Tagatemo, 3 hearts, Lidati Bimatasela, 3 hearts. This video always makes me emotional. That's Zamatiji. Kanyisa Stengile, love you guys so much. Unatim Taga, we love the commitment, the fierce love, and the bond you sisters share. Ulinda, yep, purple fingers, severe joints, shortness of breath. Utigeli disease, crash course in the bedroom, naughty dog. Anyway, Tigeli, once again, perfect way of dealing with a lot of diseases. We have to know how to deal with them. I agree. So there's just so many people who are really, giving a thumbs up to both of you guys. I think as we now go towards wrapping up this thing, the issue of organ donation, in the message that Utuma wrote on Facebook, she talked about to whom much is given, much is expected. She also said she's on a mission to create more awareness. Life lost due to lack of knowledge in this regard is one too many. She's urging people to donate organs because they are a gift of life. So the issue of organ donation to Mascarengawe, because honestly, we have a challenge in the country. We have a challenge because so many people, require organ donation. And here we're not talking just major organs like the kidneys, the liver, the lungs, the heart, but even sometimes, donation of things like the cornea of the eye and other, parts of the body, skin and all of those things. So there's many things, that can be donated. We are still struggling as a country to convince people to enroll as organ donors in the event that they get to maybe injury, their brain dead, so that they can be harvested and those organs can be able to save the lives of others. Sometimes, even if they've signed up, the relatives who are left behind will just override the whole thing because there's a belief that I'm trying to organs or something like that, because people feel you must die with your body organs and they cannot be given to somebody else. So there are still a lot of myths, there's still a lot of lack of awareness, and what better gift to give to a person than a gift of life, than for a person to go underground 6 feet with the organs intact. That would have saved maybe 8, 10, 11 other people. Now we're talking there about the organs from somebody who has passed on. It's even much more difficult, with living donations. People like you, Tuma, who choose to give their organs to actually prolong and improve the quality of life of the other. So from both of you, I want us to just, your closing remarks around issues of organ donation and encouraging people to seriously consider this, as the greatest of all gifts that we can ever give as a human being to another human.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start, Fundi. Talking about the myths, the worst one that I've heard is that if you donate an organ, your ancestors will not recognize you when you get to the other side. And I think it's as much as it's laughable, but I think because singabantu beliefs and these are the things, these are the myths that we need to dispel and be open about them and not ravish them as they exist. When we started talking earlier, before we went live, I said, as long as you don't call me a hero, but you call me a shiro. The reason for that is that for me, I feel very uncomfortable with that because it's very important. Everyone knows that they can do this. It doesn't take a supernatural human being who, of course, you have to live. The fact that I lived a fairly healthy lifestyle helped quite a bit. With the
as I wind the sekapa, I'm getting a man that goes.
And figure it with yeah. So I don't want to make it this thing bigger than it actually is. Anyone healthy enough can donate. It doesn't take a supernatural being, like I said. But what we agreed on, Ubongo and myself, after the transplant was that our mission.
What you agreed on, please.
Bono.
Is that a nickname?
Yes, that's a nickname.
Okay, Bono. All right. Yeah,
so what we agreed upon is that to show how grateful we are for her life spared, our mission and our purpose should now to create as much awareness as we possibly can whenever we get an opportunity and a platform to do that, particularly in the Black communities, because it's still very much taboo to even consider that. So that's the mission that we're on. But wherever we get an opportunity to open our mouths, and I think most people on Facebook and on my all other social media, they've heard it with me talking about this, but I can't stop talking about it because I've seen the difference that it's made quite close to me. The difference, Nande,
from the bones that I saw on that video, to the beautiful person known as Mono, Abapam.
Yes. The improvement was dramatic. Even from the first week, you could see the skin clearing. You could see her getting a glow back. You could see her energy levels picking up. So it's almost impossible for us to not talk about this. Yes, exactly that. So much that we were looking for a tool for the longest time to help us create awareness, because it's tricky to say you want to create awareness, but what do you use? So we were looking at documenting this and getting views, perhaps in some instances, from other people. So that's still a project that we're working on, but the mission is to create as much awareness as we possibly can. Before I hand over to Nande, Usbari shared a sad incident of a funeral that he had attended, Usbari being also of a funeral that he had attended of someone quite close to them as a family who passed on due to a kidney disease, kidney failure. And the brother stood in front of everyone at no, you said I think uniki with the igama. What if pinzo? What if something happens to me? So the fact that he stood there and actually said it so openly after the sister passed on, it's sad, because it talks to the fact that he didn't know any better. So it's cases like those that we would like to create as much awareness as much as we can for. Over to you, Bongos.
The pride of the nation.
Just to add on, Wenabele, I remember when I posted that video, Umama is so took. Did you put that all that on Facebook for the whole world to see? Like, Mama, one of the reasons I decided to create that video and put it out there is to let people know that organ donation can save a life. It's to educate people more than anything. So in my case, it would educate people twofold: lupus, living with lupus, and living with post the transplant. It also talks to what Susanna was saying earlier on, is that we're trying to let people know that it's doable. Singaba says Lalin. If your typical village girl or a village woman can do it, we want people to say, okay, now I can do it. I remember about last month we had a Thanksgiving, yes, and
that's where my family comes from. My great grand people, babebuya eMusha, and as Amamfing, they ran from the Shaka Wars, then they got to that buffer zone called Pedi. And so now they were starting to wander around, moving away from the buffer zone. And they came across that view of Amabele Dombi, and they decided they are putting place there, they will stay there, abasai anywhere else, every day. So I come from Umwaku, that is my history, and that's the history as to why they decided to actually make Umwaku Amabele Dombi as indawo yayo club. So I thought let me just say that
that's fine, Pele. So when we were so inkundla when kukhona speeches, and we decided actually that was the platform to show abantu basezilalini that you can do this, and look at us, we are healthy, and I've gained like extra kgs during the process. That's fine. But the purpose of us sharing our story with Udamkulu and whoever was lining was to show them that you can do this, and you can live a healthy life afterwards.
Yes, I agree. And you guys, you don't need to convince anyone. Everyone can see that you are healthy. So we were talking organ donation. Those were your closing remarks. But now, the last one from you, Susanna. I also pick up that there's a lot of, spirituality or belief on the Creator above. And it sounds like it also sustained you guys during that difficult time. So I just want your closing remarks, Sistuma. There's just one other message that came from Ujasira Simon Akamolafe. Tebisa Madiba, thank you so much for sharing this. Very informative. Wishing both sisters all the best. I certainly learned a lot. So you guys have touched people, you've informed people, in a very informal way. You've shared your story, and many more people, because the recording of this thing, you're gonna have it, and you can share it. You can take clips from it as part of your documentary that you want to do, because the quality of the picture is actually quite good. So yeah, anyway, closing remarks from you, Tuma.
I always think as human beings, you need to believe in whatever you believe in. It can be Buddha, it can be Allah, it can be Christ in my case, it can be Kamata, whatever. But for me, it was most important that I get rooted into something that gives me hope, something that keeps my faith strong. I remember I had, by the way, but I remember, oh mama.
Which church?
ewisile kaloku ibomvu iwisile ugqibe ndicela ebomvu yasewisile.
Ziserhawutini
Don't expose
asiyihambi
yourself.
cawe apha.
Andibabhuti.
Ziserhawutini asiyihambi cawe.
Yeah, you're exposing yourself. So I remember Omamenda Manabo were fasting with me, praying with me, and those things kept me going, especially when the whole family came down to Cape Town the day before the transplant. The tricky part about that prayer that we forgot to touch on is that it happened during COVID, as you can imagine. So it was so tricky to, as much as everyone wanted to give us a hug and make us feel better, but we had to be careful at the same time with the contacts but those are the things that gave us strength, that anchored us, and that kept our faith in terms of everything is going to go well. So it was most important for me, and it kept me going.
Lovely. Nande, your closing remarks?
From my side, Bele, is that whenever
let's talk about faith, because in your Facebook post, you actually allude to faith,
Okay.
as strong, but faith somewhere up.
Okay, all right. No, I just want to say that Bele, we've got this thing of over it joins you, like, oh, okay, and then it goes away. Let's not ignore things that is filayo. Let's not procrastinate going to the doctors, because you don't know what could be happening. Because the tricky thing with lupus, it's difficult to diagnose. One moment it's this thing, and then the next is the other. But just because now it's gone away, it's something else. You must continue. We are going to the doctor. And then in terms of faith, you're quite correct, Bele. I don't think I would have come this far if I was not a believer, if I didn't have God preparing the journey for me. Because even with the transplant, I was like, okay, God is already there. He's already prepared the theater for me, and he'll be controlling the hands of the surgeons that would be working with us. So having that faith has assisted me a lot with staying calm throughout the process.
Beautiful. There's just 3 more messages that I think I need to read from Vumekazi Sotwai. 3 purple hearts. This is informative. I've learned a lot from this conversation. As a young woman, I'm willing to educate my peers and share this information. I love you, Sis Nandi and Sisi. And Sisi. All right. And then Kidiboni Makaka says, this was such an eye-opener. I love the sisterly love. Unati Mjagatembo, so proud of you girls, including the operations officer, all right. And then also 28 purple hearts from Kelly Dennis, So yeah, you guys are just receiving so much love. People are like saying this has been really value adding, because remember, we mustn't take people's time for granted. So they are logging in for the last 90 minutes or so, has actually, helped them to better understand the condition. And hopefully, when there's somebody who's got a similar kind of situation, they will now be able to say, let's go to YouTube. There was once this channel that I logged in, and I learned a lot about lupus, because this video is on my YouTube channel. But I just also want to say, keep going, Nande. There's a lady that I've known since the 80s. Her name is Milase Mzamo, right? Umilase, at the age of 17, when she was doing matric, that's when she was diagnosed with lupus. She has lived with lupus for more than 35 years. I think actually, I think more than 35 years. And also, about 3 years ago, she underwent a kidney transplant as a result of the complications from lupus. So I'm trying to say people can live very long lives with lupus, even when they actually get those complications that are actually life-threatening. It is possible to survive. So with those words, I just want to say, let's educate, the world about this condition, this cruel disease that is a thief, but we must know that it can be beaten. All right? Yes, there is no cure, but with the right mindset, with the right support system, with the right knowledge, you can actually live with this condition. You only had 3 flare-ups, since you were initially, diagnosed. You actually have been living a relatively normal life, and you will continue now to lead a very, very normal life. So, but I also want to thank your hubby, Uzweli, Umadiba, for being there. Because, sometimes as men, because we cannot deal with our emotions facing things like this, it may even lead to relationships, breaking down. So for me, I give, big ups to Madiba to say, lupus or kidney transplant or whatever, I'm going to be there. He has set a good example for us as men to be there to support our loved ones when we, or when they are going through, major issues, health issues, or any other issues for that matter. So I just want to say thank you for agreeing to be part of this, broadcast today. Thank you, Sistuma. Thank you, Nabu Dog. Cross pollination, man. So please, he must continue, giving you that information. We may just give you an honorary MDCHP in the near future, just for the good work.
No, thank you.
Honorary, kaloku asizokwenza usebenze ebusuku,
No, Nkosi Bhuti.
All right, Nande, thank you very much, Siswam man. I approached you and you did not hesitate. After your meeting, you called me back and you said, let's do it, Pele. And thank you very much. And I wish you all the best in terms of your health going forward. It's not the last time I'm asking you to come back here. But for today, we are done. So thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who logged in to follow this conversation. I could not read the YouTube messages because my support staff today is not available, who's able to read in all the channels. But at least the sample that we got from Facebook gives you a sense of how people appreciated this broadcast. So thank you very much. Good evening to everybody, and may you stay safe. We are now starting to get to the 3rd wave of COVID-19. The numbers in almost all the provinces are starting to go up. We have been seeing over 2,000 new cases for the last few days. And so that is not good news. We've also now got the variant that was initially identified in India, which is quite tricky and highly infectious. We had 4 cases by Saturday, this past Saturday. So please, let's look after each other. Let's make sure we mask up. Let's socially distance. And for you, Nande, specifically, because of the fact that you are a kidney transplant patient and you also have got lupus, please, with phase 2 of the vaccination that's starting on the 17th, please consider, COVID-19 vaccination. Because
Registered.
Registered. lovely, because other people are still hesitant about making use of this life-saving intervention. So we encourage people to take that vaccine. There's more benefits than risks from actually getting that vaccine. I got mine 2 weeks ago and I'm sorted, but there's many people who are at a much higher health risk than I am. So I'm encouraging those people to register on that platform and wait for them to be called. All right. So thank you very much to everybody who joined in. Until next time, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.